Hi everybody, this is a video that's going to be showing you the modifier buttons that are now actually located on the desktop in the bottom left of your Fantasy Grounds window. Now for the most part this is really nothing new. You could always get access to those buttons from the modifiers window. You can see as we select the various different buttons, they're being reflected into the modifiers window. So it's just really placing these modifiers in an easy to access location rather than having to open the modifiers window, or as some people did previously, they dragged some of those buttons to the hotkey bar. You can obviously still do that. We haven't removed any actual functionality there. But primarily, you've got these various buttons that appear here. If you hover over them, it's going to show you some of the details of what they actually do. So when you actually use them, it will, to show you what is going to be applied when you're actually using those. Some of these buttons, they kind of have a toggle. So the lesser cover, the cover, and the greater cover, you can only have one of those active at a particular time. Similar with concealed and hidden, you can only have one of those active at the point in time. Critical or half damage, they're only can be relevant, actually activated one or the other at that point in time. Just clear that slot. So notice that we haven't put the multi-attack buttons down there. That's because they're available in many other places. They're available at the top of the combat tracker there. They're available at the top of a character sheet. They're available at the top of a NPC sheet as well. So we haven't just added those to the desktop there because they're available in multiple locations where you'd actually be using them. So one thing that we have done as part of this release is the off guard button. And if you're running a legacy campaign, this will be flat-footed rather than off guard, is that this will apply the off guard or flat-footed effect kind of temporarily during the action that it's being rolled on. And we've extended this to also apply that effect during a damage action. So I'll go through an example to show exactly what that means now. And hopefully you can see how that can benefit people who maybe don't use effects as much as some other people do, or just need to do a quick off-guard actual triggering of effects. Also notice that as part of this being these buttons being located here, we've now relocated the dice slightly to the right. We've also relocated the GM's DC panel. I mean, obviously the players won't see the GM DC panel, but they've been relocated just to make way for these buttons. These buttons are available on both the GM's and the player's side, and they have the same functionality. As usual, if you want to move things around, you can unlock. Sorry, it was already unlocked. You can move it around, unlock it, or you can reset its position if you need to reset the position. Same with the dice. You can unlock them, move them around and reset their position and lock them. So, just because we're moving them around, it doesn't stop you actually relocating things as you desire, except you can't relocate these buttons. They're kind of tied in with the modifiers, and they're just located underneath the chat frame. So I'm just going to go through an example of very simple combat. I've got a first level rogue here, and I'm also going to add a kobold warrior. We're going to put these on a simple battle map. I mean, we don't need to. We could do targeting through the chat window. Sorry, through the combat tracker, not the chat window. In fact, I'll just do that. So rogues targeted the kobold warrior, and the kobold warriors targeting roguey. I'll just roll initiative for roguey. Just use standard perception for their initiative. So that's been rolled. The kobold's initiative was automatically rolled when it was added to the combat tracker. And when I'll just trigger that to start round one. So kobold is it's their turn now. I mean, very, very similar combat. I'm just going to have these two guys going toe to toe, and I'm going to just simulate them both having flat-footed, off-guard conditions, just to show you kind of the new functionality that's available as part of the off-guard button. So Kobold Warrior has Rogie targeted. Now, for whatever reason, Rogie's off guard to the Kobold Warrior. You could still do, exactly as you could have done previously. You can have an off guard effect here. And that would work fine. You don't need to use the buttons. You could have dragged that off guard effect as well from out of all the effects here and applied them. So, you can still use the effects as normal if you actually wanted to. And a lot of people will, but this is just really, just to give you more options and maybe just do things a little bit quicker if maybe a PC or an NPC isn't set up to apply those effects easily. So, Kobold Warrior, he's toe-to-toe with Rogie. Rogie's off guard for whatever reason. We make an attack with our spear, and you see we have the defensive effects -2 of Rogie. So his AC would have been reduced by 2 because he's flat-footed. We rolled a 20, 23, it's a hit, and it's a 20, so it's a critical hit. So notice that the off-guard button is reset. It will reset after every roll. So if I do hit, I need to just click it again, and then I need to roll my damage. Notice that when this Kobold Warrior was added to the combat tracker, it has this effect. If target off guard, damage 1d4 precision. That was added as part of the automation in this sneak attack ability here. See the perma-effect automation. That's coded into the standard Kobold Warrior from the Monster Core or from the Bestiary one for Legacy. So that's automatically applied there. So now, when I click off guard and I roll damage, it should apply that kind of a dummy effect. You don't see it actually happening, but it will say, right, that target's off guard. So you can see that's happened here. We've got our normal D6. We've got our critical damage for the piercing D6. We've got piercing and precision, and we've got piercing, precision, critical. So it's added those 1d4s and all rolled all of those together for us there. All because, one, we got a critical hit with our first attack, and then because we had the off-guard button when we did our damage. So this is all doing all of that automation for you and putting it in. Just remember that the off-guard button will reset after you do an attack or after you do a damage roll. So just say that's all that the Kobold can do. I mean, it could try attacking again with multi-attack penalty 2, with its spear. That's a miss. You see the multi-attack -5 and the defensive effects -2 for being off guard. I mean, he could try again, or he could move or something, but, and he gets a hit. So I'll show you the effects of that hit as well there. Not a critical this time, so in just these 3 rolls, Rogie's dying as a result of all of that. So just as part of this example, say that final hit didn't actually occur. I'm just going to kind of reset that 7 points of damage that were done to it, made it negative, and then dragged it onto the rogue. So he's still got his 7 hit points left. There, and now it's end of the Kobold's turn. It's Rogie's turn now. Now, the effects are used slightly differently for player characters. This is a first level rogue. When he was created, when they got their sneak attack added here as part of them being a first level rogue, there was what's known as a character effect was added to this character that's on this character permanently, which is if target off guard, damage 1d6 precision. We don't normally see that in the combat tracker, but we can enable that just to see which ones are the PC effects. This is just really to reduce clutter. And for a player character, from a player side there, they'd actually have a button here just to the left of character effects to show or hide in the combat tracker. So we now know that, Rogie has this similar effect to what the kobold has, but this is just because it's a permanent effect that they have sneak attack. It's stored as a character effect. So I can come down to their actions. So they're now going to attack. They've got the kobold targeted. As part of this demonstration, the kobold's off guard. Just running attack there. So I've missed even with off guard. What's the... Yeah, kobold's got AC 16 and that was actually a 13, so we missed by 1. Could try a second attack on there. Now with the multi-attack penalties and things, we're definitely missing. But just as part of this example, yep, so 3 attacks missed. But for this example, we want to just show you again that the effects are being triggered. So I've clicked off guard before I roll my damage. Again, we're getting the precision damage and just the base damage. A D6 is the black D6 that's being rolled there, and the purple D6 is the precision damage, which came in as part of an effect, and that's applied 8 damage to the kobold. The kobold only had 7, so he's dying. So this is just, like I said, this could have been done before by applying off-guard effects to people, but now you can just use this off-guard button yourself. Now it does actually also allow you to, I'll just heal up the kobold, to have effects based on like an IF effect on targets. So I'm trying to think of an example here. If they're off guard, maybe they have their AC increased by 1. Maybe the penalty just for being off guard is just -1 rather than -2. And when this character attacks, we can see that the defensive effects are now only -1. We get the -2 for the normal off guard, but we get that if they're off guard, their AC is 1. And so that's taking an effect, both of these via this off guard button that applies kind of like a dummy off guard effect. So what actually happens is, as part of that, the system's going to look for IFT effects on the actor if their target is off guard, and also it will look for IF effects on the target, if that actual, the local effect is actually valid. And we can see that, if we roll an attack which isn't off guard, then we don't get any effects because these are all related to being off guard. So that's kind of just like a run through of the new functionality via the off guard button. Like I say, you can still use, effects and targeting and things like that. For example, as part of the feint activity, which can set off guard, which uses actual effect targeting. You can still use these activities because that's off guard to a specific target. But if you wanted to, you could just remember that yourselves and use the off guard buttons as well. So you just kind of just show that there. You get the usual defensive effects there. And when you roll, it takes that into account without using that off guard button. So lots of different ways to do it. The off guard button now just makes it perhaps just a bit easier for, characters that may not have all the effects added up, or just to do a quick, oh, this is off guard for this attack. Okay, let's process it. Remember that it does disappear after an attack. This is because, you don't always hit. So the system doesn't, provide feedback to actually keep that there if the actual attack was a hit. Because there could be multiple targets that you actually have, and that would apply to all of them. So, there's a little bit of complexity there to try and make it a bit intelligent, because this is not based off individual targets, it's based off all current targets. And then after you roll damage as well, it gets reset. So just keep that in mind. So This video is a lot longer than I intended it to be. Sorry about that if you're still with me. I did ramble a bit there, but hopefully you got some useful information. Thanks for watching.